Hello again, I'm Doug Smith. Welcome to the 8 October 2017 edition of Portsmouth This Week. Our special guest today is Seth Magaziner, General Treasurer of the state of Rhode Island since January 2015. Welcome to the show, Seth.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on board. I wanted to ask a little bit about your personal background, but I just wanted to make sure that people knew you've got a family tradition of public service. Your father being a senior policy advisor for Bill Clinton and the president. And I know you're doing a lot of things too, working with Crossroads and the board of directors and other things. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about your background. I know you're a Bristol-born guy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was fortunate to have two parents who taught me from a young age the importance of giving back. And there are a lot of different ways to make a difference, as you know. You can make a difference in government, you can make a difference in nonprofit work. My father worked in the Clinton administration for a number of years as a policy advisor. My mother is active here locally in Rhode Island in a number of causes, Sophia Academy, Trinity Rep, a number of other organizations. And they taught me from a very young age that it's important to use the tools that you have in your disposal to help others and to try to make your community and the world a better place. So that's what motivated me to enter public service. I love Rhode Island, born and raised here, as you said. I'm from Bristol originally, way over the bridge from here. And I saw that our state, while a wonderful place, was struggling. Just a few years ago, we had the highest unemployment rate of any state in the country. And I ran for treasurer because I wanted to use that office to help promote economic growth and job creation here in Rhode Island, and that's what we've been doing.
Yeah, I believe you went to Brown and then on to Yale for what, an MBA, I guess. Both great educational facilities for sure. And I also just want to, I'm trying to blow your horn here a little bit. I want to say that you were recently elected Vice President of the National Association of State Treasurers. So kudos for that. Probably a lot of people don't know that, but congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, no, I think, again, I was fortunate to get to have a good education and some success so far in my career, but it really all comes back to growing up in Bristol in Rhode Island and that importance of public service. I'll tell you what, I mean, Bristol, as you know, we're the most patriotic town in the country, or so we like to say, and you can't grow up in Bristol, Rhode Island and not have a real commitment to service and a real commitment to the country.
Yeah. Well, we're very proud of our 4th of July celebration over there, all of us in Rhode Island. Let me ask you basically, what does the Treasurer of Rhode Island actually do?
Well, what I've been doing as Treasurer is using the office to help expand the economy and add jobs in Rhode Island. Because we are a wonderful state, but we're a state that has lagged economically, certainly lagged our neighbors. And we've been doing that in a few different ways. We have been helping small businesses expand and grow and get access to capital through our Bank Local program, where we're moving millions of dollars of the state's cash to local banks and credit unions so that they have more capital to lend to Main Street businesses. We've been doing it through the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, where we are putting people to work, retrofitting our public buildings and making them more energy efficient. So the Treasurer's Office does a lot of things, but my primary focus has been on using the office to promote economic growth and to put people back to work.
Yeah, in reading up on you and your website, the Treasurer, which I think is great, by the way, it's a lot of really good information. The one that really impressed me was the fact that you manage the state pension funds. And we're talking about $8 billion or so. That's now we're talking real money here. And I don't know. I know nothing or very little about finance, but it seems to me that these investments that you've made with these funds have performed very well over the last couple of years. The last one I saw was, and maybe I'm misreading this, but it was about 12% growth.
Yeah. So all Rhode Islanders deserve retirement security. No Rhode Islander should have to retire into poverty. And that's especially true for those who have spent their lives serving the rest of us. So the state pension system is the primary source of retirement security for 60,000 Rhode Islanders, and these are public school teachers who educate our kids, and police officers who keep the streets safe, and firefighters who run into burning buildings when everybody else is running out. They deserve retirement security in a system that's sustainable. And so do the taxpayers who fund the system. They deserve a system that is sustainable and performs well. So a year ago, I launched a back to basics investment strategy for the pension fund. We moved away from some of the higher cost, higher fee alternative investments that we had been invested in and went back to a more traditional investment strategy. And it's working. As you said, we've had very strong performance since we launched Back to Basics. Over the last year, we've earned a double-digit return. We've made almost $1 billion of investment gains. You know, just a year and a half ago, the pension system had $7.2 billion in it. Now we're up to $8.1 billion. So we've seen some good growth and some good progress. And that's important, again, because those who spend their lives serving the community need to know that that pension's going to be there for them, and that when they do retire, they're not going to have to worry. And the taxpayers need to know that we're managing the system in a way that is responsible and sustainable, and that's what we've been focused on.
Now, do you actually have people in your office that kind of watch over these investments and where they're going and make changes and things like that?
Yeah, we've got an excellent investment staff in our office, and we also have an investment committee of financial experts from around the state. This is a volunteer committee that meets monthly and works with me to oversee the system. And there's some really good people on it, people who have, you know, PhDs in economics and finance, people who have run their own investment firms here in Rhode Island and elsewhere. And so I benefit from the fact that I have good people around me, both on the investment committee and then also in our office.
Okay, I know another kind of initiative that you've been looking at or trying to promote is the idea of getting all towns and cities in Rhode Island possibly to put their employee pension funds under your kind of control there, so you can add them to the mix of good investment. I guess, what are some of the reasons that a town would not want to do that?
Well, first of all, I think it should be up to the town. So I don't want to force any community in if they don't feel that it's right for them. But the fact is, the state pension system is doing relatively well, strong returns, getting healthier by the day. A lot of the municipal run pension plans are in really tough shape. We've got about 40 different municipal pension plans across the state, and a majority of them are in critical status. That means they have less than 60% of the assets that they need to cover their liabilities, their payments. And in some cases, it's far less than 60%. In some communities, it's less than 30%, and that's a really severe situation. And, you know, Economics 101 tells you that economies of scale can be very powerful.
Exactly, yeah.
And so does it make sense for a small community with a $20 million or $50 million pension plan to be operating it on its own and covering all those investment costs and legal costs and actuarial costs, not getting access to the same quality of investment managers that an $8 billion system has access to? So the legislation that I introduced last year would make it easier for communities, if they wanted to join the state system so that they could have the benefit of more professional management, economies of scale, lower costs, etc. And you know, that's something that I'm going to continue to push for.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good idea, as you say, to take advantage of that economy of scale. You've got really good guys doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice to make that statewide. But as you say, I think Rhode Island is very independent, so it'll be up to the towns. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I know another thing that you do that I'm not too clear about either is, I guess your office manages the Unclaimed Property program?
Yes.
How did you get into that?
Well, I inherited it, but Unclaimed Property is something that all of your viewers should know about. It's basically a statewide lost and found system. And if a company owes you money and doesn't know how to find you, they're not supposed to just keep it, they're supposed to turn it over to us. For example, Maybe you have some distant relative who passed away and you were part of their life insurance policy and the insurance company doesn't know how to find you. Or maybe you moved recently and your old utility companies owe you a rebate and don't know where to find you. Or your old landlord owes you your security deposit back and doesn't know where to find you. They're not supposed to just keep your money. They're supposed to turn it over to the state so that we can reunite people with their lost money. And our office has got about $300 million of this missing money that is owed to Rhode Islanders. We estimate that more than 1 out of 10 Rhode Islanders have missing money in our system.
Wow.
And this is important because, unfortunately, the economic recovery has not included everyone. There are a lot of Rhode Islanders who are still very much living on the margins, and they may be owed money. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $500 that they don't even know about. So I love talking about unclaimed property on shows like this because we need to get the word out. We will hold on to this money forever. It never expires. There's no taxes on it because it's not new income. It's your money that you already are entitled to. And the easiest way to find out if you have unclaimed property is to go to a website, findrimoney.com. And you can put in a search for yourself or for your family members. And in many cases, you can fill out a form right online and get a check sent to you. In some cases, if it's a little more of a complicated case, we might need you to call the office and do a little extra paperwork, but we really endeavor to make it as easy as possible. Findrimoney.com. You can do a search to see if you're
is there a
in there.
link to that on your Treasury website?
There is, absolutely. It's right there on the front page.
Okay.
Not surprisingly, on our Treasury website, treasury.ri.gov, the unclaimed property link is the most clicked part of the website.
Sure.
But it really, it makes a big difference. And we get new unclaimed property in all the time also, so even if you've checked in the past, it makes sense to check in again regularly. Yeah.
Now you said $300 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, it could be from decades ago.
Sure.
When I took office, I did a search on Find RI Money for all of my family members. I didn't have any unclaimed property, but my father did from when he had lived in Massachusetts back in the 70s. My brother did from when he was in college 10 years ago. His old landlord owed him his deposit back. My aunt had $400 of unclaimed property. So even if you don't think you have any, it's worth checking, and check for your family members too.
Yeah, so every resident of Rhode Island should be doing this maybe once a year at least.
Exactly, because on average every year we receive about $20 million of new unclaimed property coming in every year. So it makes sense to check at least once a year, I would say.
That's great. Boy, that's a great explanation too. Something for people to do out there. Let's talk a little about your green infrastructure initiative and the infrastructure bank. How does that work, and how is it working out?
Well, a great way to grow the economy and put people to work that we are doing is we are investing in energy efficiency projects around the state. And this is great because you can put people to work, in the construction trades on projects that will help taxpayers save money on energy costs. So what the Green Bank does, what the green infrastructure programs that the Infrastructure Bank do, is they finance energy efficiency projects. We can do energy retrofits of fire stations, schools, city and town halls, public libraries, other large government facilities, like we're talking to the convention center and the airport. And maybe it's new boilers, maybe it's better windows that are more insulated, or solar panels on the roof. And we can do these energy retrofits that are putting people to work but also saving taxpayers money. Since we started this program, the Efficient Buildings Fund at the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, we've funded about $17 million worth of energy efficiency retrofits to buildings, public buildings all across the state. That $17 million created more than almost $40 million of savings on energy bills for taxpayers. So it more than paid for itself. And we put 250 tradesmen and women to work in the process. That's only so far. We've got another round of projects that's about to go out later this month.
Now, this is available to municipalities as well?
Yeah, municipalities and quasi-public agencies. So, for example, here on Aquidneck Island, we did a project down in Newport at the wastewater treatment facility where they put solar panels on the roof. And now 20% of the energy of this wastewater site in Newport is solar powered. It's the first wastewater site treatment facility in New England to be partially solar powered. And that's money that the community and the ratepayers are saving because they don't have to spend as much on traditional energy. We also have a program at the Infrastructure Bank that does something similar for commercial property owners, for businesses, where they can get low-cost financing for energy efficiency
To upgrade
projects.
their facility and their
Exactly.
buildings.
And this is a new one, so this just launched a couple months ago. There have been 3 projects so far, but one of them was right down the road in Middletown at a company called Embrace Home Loans. They have 2 office buildings in Middletown that they own. They employ a couple hundred people, and they did rooftop solar through the Infrastructure Bank as well, and they're going to save $2 million in the process.
Now, do you have solar on your house?
Well, not yet, because I just moved into my house a few months ago.
Yeah.
But we did do an energy audit, and we did do some smaller upgrades, new fixtures and the kind of coating around the door frames and that sort of thing. But we're going to look at doing solar once we get settled in.
Yeah, I've had it for about a year on
Is that
mine,
right?
and actually it's going like gangbusters.
Is that right?
It's really good, yeah. My electricity bills in the summertime go down and they owe me money,
Wow.
essentially.
That's terrific.
So, this infrastructure fund, though, sounds very interesting, particularly in view of our schools. I know this is an issue that you're dealing with. The needs of our schools to be upgraded. It's like all of our infrastructure. Nobody wants to invest in it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this stuff is just falling apart. But it's particularly bad in our schools. These buildings are very old. Can schools use something like that, or the
Absolutely.
towns?
So on the energy efficiency front in the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, yes. The city of Cranston did a retrofit of one of their elementary schools through this program.
Yeah.
It's saved Cranston money and improved the learning environment for that school. This is the Edgewood Highland Elementary School. So absolutely. But it's going to take more than just energy efficiency to really fix our schools. Every child in Rhode Island deserves to go to a school that is warm and safe and dry and has the facilities to prepare them for the 21st century workforce.
Yeah.
No parent should have to worry when they send their kid on the school bus in the morning that they may be sending their kid to someplace unsafe. Unfortunately, as you said, too many of our school buildings in Rhode Island don't make the grade. Some of them are in really rough shape. So earlier this fall, the governor created a task force to come up with a plan to fix the schools. I'm honored to serve as a co-chair of this task force along with Ken Wagner, the education commissioner. We're working very hard on this, and we will have a plan by December 15th to fix schools all across the state. We know there's a lot of need. We estimate that just to get our schools warm, safe, and dry, just to do those immediate health and safety needs, could cost $600 million. And to make all of the repairs that schools really need to make them, excellent spaces for learning, will cost more than $2 billion. But we have to find a way to do it. Our kids deserve it, and we just can't wait. The longer we put it off, the harder and more expensive it's going to be to fix these schools. So we have to act quickly.
No, absolutely. And I know our school department has been trying to address this issue, doing what they can, as best they can within their budget. It always comes down to money.
Yeah, and I think we're all going to have to step up more. I mean, the state's going to have to step up and play more of a role. The cities and towns are going to have to step up and make this a priority in their budgets because we've put it off for far too long. There was a really good report that came out a couple months ago that looked at the condition of every single school in the state. That's where those numbers came from, $600 million to get the schools safe and $2 billion to get them into good shape. And my big takeaways from that report were, number one, this is a problem in every school district in the state. it's not just the urban communities.
Right.
Every school district in the state has buildings that need health and safety upgrades. And that includes even here in Portsmouth. I was reading on my way down here in the car, the report for the middle school, where there's work needed to bring the fire system up to code. And there's work needed to replace the gas lines, which are starting to degrade. And it's every community. So I think everyone's going to have to step up and do more at the state level, at the local level. And it's not going to be just about spending more money, it's also going to be about spending smarter and making sure that when we do invest in school buildings, that we are investing in the highest priority projects and that we are using best practices to keep our construction costs under control. That's something that Massachusetts and other states have really good programs in place to do, to make sure that when they are repairing their school facilities, that they're stretching their dollar as far as they can. And we can adopt some of those practices here in Rhode Island as well.
One of the issues, it seems to me, that if you just come up with money and throw it at the towns to do it, I guess I'm thinking there should be more state involvement somehow in overseeing all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, certainly, especially when you have state matches, right? If the state's going to cover half of the bill, then I think it's
that's a good one.
Very appropriate for the state to say, we're not going to do that if, you want to build a new football stadium, but what you really need is to fix the roof, right?
Yeah.
If you want this state money, you're going to have to spend smart. And, I think we are going to look at ways that we can incentivize and assist the municipalities in making the right decisions, not through mandates, not by being heavy-handed, but by saying, listen, if the state's going to be ponying up more money, we want to make sure that it's spent well and that it's spent in the right places. And again, to me, it all comes back to every school should be safe, so we've got to deal with the health and safety repairs quickly. And then the second part is we have to prepare these schools for learning that is going to prepare these kids for a 21st century workforce. 3/4 of the high schools in Rhode Island don't have science labs. Think about it.
Yeah.
They have classrooms where science is taught, but they don't have real science labs with the facilities needed for chemistry experiments and physics and so on. And I mean, how are we going to compete in the 21st century economically when our schools aren't set up to facilitate that type of learning?
Yeah, we could have a whole program just talking about this, because one of my issues is technology and how do we keep up with it. None of these schools were built to have any kind of wireless anything, and it's all been sort of laid on top of everything else. Plus, just the idea that technology changes so fast and our budgets don't.
Right.
So that's an issue. Kind of a segue from that, I was very interested to read about your college-bound saver program, and particularly the one about the babies, where essentially babies every baby born in Rhode Island gets $100 put into an account for them. How does that work?
Well, as you know, in order to really make it in life and to be competitive in a 21st century economy, you need to have some kind of post-high school education. Whether it's a 4-year college or trade school or community college, a high school degree, unfortunately, is not enough anymore. And so we need to be helping more of our people in Rhode Island go to college or get post-secondary education. Unfortunately, the cost of college is just astronomical, and it goes up every year. So our college-bound saver program is designed to help families save for college in a tax-efficient and affordable way. So you can open up a college-bound account.
That's like an education IRA or
Exactly, yeah. You can open up a college-bound account with as little as like $50, and you get a little tax break on your income taxes for contributing money into a college-bound account. It invests, over time. You can choose it, from a menu of investment options. It grows over time, and then when it comes time to spend that money, you can spend it on tuition or books or room and board or a laptop. There's no capital gains tax on those investment earnings, so it's like an IRA. It's a very efficient way to save for college. And We have about 25,000 Rhode Islanders who have college-bound accounts. These are young people whose families are saving to put them into college. But we need more people to be saving and planning ahead because the cost of college tuition is so expensive. So that's why we started the College Bound Baby program. College Bound Baby is an incentive where now you go and you have a baby at a hospital in Rhode Island. When you're filling out the paperwork to leave the hospital, there's a box at the bottom that says, would you like to get information to open a College Bound account? If you check yes, then we get you started in opening an account and you get a $100 bonus. We put the first $100 in for you. So any child born in Rhode Island within 1 year, if they open a College Bound account, they get the $100. And it's a relatively new program, but we're starting to see some good results.
It sounds like a really great initiative. Another one that you've recently done, and I'm not clear on whether the General Assembly passed the bill you had about Treasury, transparent Treasury.
Yeah, they did. So this was one of the first things that I started working on when I took office, because I'm mindful of the fact that this is public money. You know, the $8 billion in the pension fund, the $6 billion in the College Bound fund, $1 billion of cash that we manage. This is your money. This is the people's money. And you deserve to know where it is and how it's performing. So we started a policy called Transparent Treasury, where we will only invest pension money with investment managers that let us put their performance and their fees on our website. And if they don't agree to letting us publish their performance and their fees, we don't invest with them. We started that 2.5 years ago. It's been very successful. You can get all that information on our website on treasury.ri.gov, see where your money is invested and how it's performing. Yeah. But we wanted to make sure that this transparency would continue after I'm not treasurer anymore. And that's why the General Assembly, we worked with them to pass legislation to make it permanent. And it passed in the special session of the General Assembly just a couple weeks ago, and we're very excited about it.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
We've only got about a minute left here, but I just want to put a pitch in for what we were talking about earlier. Financial literacy in schools. You know, I know you have some things that you're doing with that. How are we doing in the state, do you think, and what can we do more in the next 50 seconds?
We've come a long way, but we can do better. So our office works with a program called EverFi, which is an online learning tool that we now have in most of the high schools around the state and some of the middle schools. This is online learning for financial education. That's been successful. We also, as a state now, have established statewide standards for financial education in the schools, but they're not a requirement. So we have standards, but it's not mandatory that it be taught in the schools. And I think that's the next step. The next thing that we have to look at is doing what many other states do and having a requirement that says, you know, before you get that high school diploma, you need to have some personal finance.
Yeah, exactly. Seth, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Portsmouth This Week.